It's 7:30. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April 13th Municipal Land Use Board meeting. I am substituting tonight for our chairman who's not here. I've done this a few times, so I kind of, just bear with me though, try to get my memory up. We'll have a flag salute. Councilman Chaningo, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of this meeting was published in the Bergen Record on January 8th, 2022, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, posted on the Borough website, and made available for review in the Board Clerk's office. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available for review on the Borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and in the Board Clerk's office. Please silence all cell phones. Please wait to be recognized by the chairperson during the meeting. And when making a public comment, please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record. Also, just a FYI for the board members, complete your financial disclosure statements. It should have been emailed to you.
And with that, I thank you, and I'm going to ask you to call the roll, please.
The mayor is absent tonight.
He's excused.
Mr. Caslin is absent, excused.
He's also excused.
Ms. Boland?
Here.
Mr. Merman is absent, excused.
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Here.
Mr. Cray?
Here.
Mr. Arkelian?
Here.
Councilman Kinigo?
Here.
Mr. Gibbons is absent, excused. Mr. Grasso is absent tonight. And Mr. Esposito?
Here.
All right, and we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Mr. Esposito is seated to vote.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, first order of business, approval of minutes. We have the minutes from 3/9/22. Are there any questions, comments? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Sounds good. Then the minutes for 3/23/22. Any comments, questions, concerns? Oh, I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Did
All
you
right,
get
Mr.
them?
Es-
I'm sorry.
I'll need
Am
a
I going
different,
fast
I'll
for you?
need a different second because Mr. Esposito is in.
I'll second it then.
All right, thank you. All right. And we can do an all in favor.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Very good. Okay, we have a memorialization, Herndon Green, 199 Bogart Road, Block 1207, Lot 30. This was for the retaining wall. If you remember, folks, during that meeting, they withdrew their application, and it was dismissed with prejudice.
Without.
Without.
I'm sorry, without prejudice.
Without. Okay.
So we just need to confirm that, so if I can have a motion on that?
So moved.
Mr. Cray? Do I have a
Okay.
second?
Second.
Mr. Pfeffer?
All right, and
I'm
I
gonna take a
will.
roll call.
I'll do roll call, and I'll only call those who are eligible to vote. All right, Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian.
Yes.
And that's everyone. The motion passes.
Very good.
To carry more.
All right, so this part of the meeting, I'm going to call up the two applicants that are here, and I'm going to ask them a few questions. I'm going to have our professionals answer a few questions, and we'll decide if the application is ready to move forward. So I'm going to ask Mr. Jerry Mayetta. Did I say that right? Mayetta, close enough. 421 The Fenway, Block 909, Lot 13, and you're coming in for a proposed side yard setback variance. Come have a seat. And just give us a brief description on what you're looking to accomplish tonight.
We're looking to put a small mudroom addition on the side of the house for the side door. We use that as our main entryway. And just with two young children, things get a little hectic, and it just would make life a lot easier if we had a little mudroom to enter our home.
Tom?
In reviewing the application materials, which include a current property survey and plans for the proposed project, they appear to be complete, so the board can move forward with the application this evening.
Ms. Finley?
Prior to this meeting, I reviewed the application proof submitted by the applicant and found them to be sufficient for the board to have jurisdiction tonight.
Sounds good. I'll entertain a motion to have this complete.
Second.
Mr. Gray, Mr. Pfeffer? Roll call, please.
Ms. Boland?
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Yes.
Mr. Cray?
Yes.
Mr. Ericellian?
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo?
Yes.
And Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay, you can go have a seat. We'll call you up in a few minutes. All right, so that one was easy. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult. Mr. Nulifer Golalupaga? I was, all right, I wasn't too far off. Please come on up. This is an application for 257 Wayne Avenue, Block 907, Lot 22. They're looking for a pool and patio, which would increase the improved lot coverage to a non-conforming size. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just give the board a quick overview of what you're looking to accomplish.
Well, we're looking to accomplish a in-ground swimming pool and requesting a variance for that, and its purpose for the enjoyment and safety of my family. As through the pandemic, we've lived through a lot of stresses, including myself and personally seeing a lot of deaths and a lot of suffering on my side, and could not enjoy the summers and things that I'd like to do and give a safe environment for my granddaughter and my children. So I decided that the best would be is to give them some sanctuary in the backyard with a
Okay.
swimming pool.
Mr. Barron's?
So as you've heard, the application is for a pool and associated improvements. We have both the plan and survey for the property, so everything appears to be in order to determine this application complete.
Ms. Finley?
Prior to this meeting, I reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicant and found them to be sufficient for the board to have jurisdiction tonight.
Any questions from the board? Have a motion to move this application forward?
So moved.
Ms. Boland, the second.
Second.
Mr. Esposito, roll call, please.
All right, Ms. Boland?
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Yes.
Mr. Cray?
Yes.
Mr. Ericellian?
Yes?
Councilman Kanigo?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, you can go back to your seat. We'll call you up in a few seconds, and I'm going to ask Mr. Marletta to come on back up again. Is your wife going to testify too, or? Okay. Good evening again. Yes.
Okay, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, could you please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record?
Jerry Mayetta, Maietta, 421 The Fenway, River
Thank you.
Edge.
And do you have any other witnesses that will testify today?
I have my contractor here if there's any technical questions. Mark
Okay, does he want to
Bernardi.
come up and? Okay, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, and please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record, and it can be a business address.
Mark Bernardi, B-O-N-A-R-D-I. I reside at 324 Taft Road.
And you are the contractor
I am.
for the, do you have any licensing in New Jersey?
Yeah, we're licensed both as a home improvement contractor and a New Jersey State Registered Builder.
Okay. And does the board accept the qualifications of Mr. Bernardi as the contractor for this?
I would believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I believe
He's
Mr.
been here
Bernardi has
before.
testified before us.
Yes, he has.
Okay, great.
Prior.
Thank you.
How you doing, Mark?
Okay, please proceed.
So, as I stated before, we're looking to put an addition on the left side of the house, the south side house, which is our side entrance. We don't use our front door. You open up our front door, you're right in the living room, so we kind of use our side door, which makes things a little bit easier for us. However, coming into the house, we're tripping over each other coming through the side door. Just having a mud room would just provide us with a lot of flexibility and make life whole lot easier.
And why are you looking for side yard relief? To explain that a little bit to the board.
I believe it's 6 feet on each side you need, so in order to put the small mudroom to make it feasible and workable, I believe it's 15 inches we're looking at.
Okay. That's what it says here. I'm just going to interrupt you 1 second. I want to speak to the crowd. If anybody is here for the Dunkin' Donuts application, that is not going to be heard this evening. Is anybody here for the Dunkin' Donuts application? Okay, perfect. I saw a bit of a crowd.
Yeah.
It's nice to have everybody here.
Yeah, we normally don't see the crowd in person. Yeah.
Mr. Behrens,
Sure, I'll add
I'm
my-
sorry, you finished?
If you have any questions,
You have anything you want to add at this point?
Myself? Well, right now, the side yard has stairs going up into the house, so what we're looking to do is remove the stairwell, and we're gonna increase the size of the stair area by a little bit, so the coverage that's there now, we're not gonna be covering a heck of a lot more space than it's already been taken up. So basically, we're not, changing too much of it, we're just basically gonna go a little bit further out and close it so that they can have access. Because you walk into that side door now, you're walking right into the kitchen, but the kitchen cabinets are right on your left side, right side, and it's a very small door. Right now, I think it's not even a 3-foot door going in the side of the house, like a 2'8" door. So
What's
it's
the
very
exact
narrow.
size of the addition that you're putting on?
The actual size, I gotta look at the plan to be honest with you. (6'3". If you just look in the enclosed area, it's 9'5". 6'3" by 9'5" on the enclosed area, and the stairwell is another 3 foot by 6'3". Okay, the outside stairs going up to the enclosure, 6 foot. You get into the addition part of itself is about 9'5½", based on the outside the measurements. The width is consistent with 6'3½". I believe now, I don't know if there's anything on here showing what's there now, but I believe that the steps that are there now are coming out over 5 feet off the house already. So we're not looking for a heck of a lot of encroachment into the side yard. The variance, it's a very small amount of area looking to take up to make this work. We went over it back and forth with the architect several times as to the size of it, to try, bring it back a little bit. The problem is when you come in through a 3'6" door and you're going into a 6-foot room, it doesn't leave you a lot of room once you walk through the doorway to give access left and right. So shrinking it any would be detrimental to what he's trying to do. So we did take that all into consideration when we did design to see that this would be something that would be comfortable to get in and out of.
Okay. Board members, before I get to you, do you want to hear from Mr. Behrens first and get him out of the way, and then we can ask the applicants? Sure. Mr. Behrens?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you've heard, it is a fairly straightforward application. They're looking to basically replace the existing stoop, which provides a side entry into the house with an enclosed entry that it will, albeit be slightly larger than currently exists. I'll note that it is a one-story addition only, and that the development otherwise conforms with the borough's ordinances that apply to the property. The property in question also does have a somewhat narrow lot width as compared to what's required by ordinance. The lot width here is about 69 feet, where a minimum of 75 feet is required, so there is, to some extent, a hardship with respect to that requirement. And again, the house is developed the way it is and has an existing door in that location. We've heard some testimony as to why the dimensions being proposed are the way they are in terms of functionality. And again, the deviation that we're looking at is the requirement requires a side yard setback of 6 feet, and the one corner is 4.9 feet from the side lot line.
Okay. I'll open it up to the board. Mr. Esposito, any questions?
At this point, no.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Nothing.
Mr. Crane? Ms. Boland?
My only question is, you had commented that the required is 6 feet on each side, and the plan says 15 feet combined. Is it 12 feet, or is it 15 that's required? Because it just requires another variance if it's,
I believe
15.
because it's a non-conforming
It's-
lot.
Right, so the River Edge, we have the graduated side yards.
Okay.
So the upmost one is 18 feet, and the lower is 12 feet. So the combined is 15 feet, but they're actually at 16 feet. So it does appear that,
but I don't think they are at 16.
well,
They have 8 feet on one side, and they're proposing 4.9.
well,
I'm-
I see what you're saying.
According to the survey.
Right,
The
right.
survey says 8 feet, and they're proposing 4.9, which is 12.9. It's more to get it on record that you don't have a problem later on.
To give them the accurate relief.
Right.
I would say that the proposal only impacts the one side yard, but with respect to the combined, it's,
And if we approve it, it's probably
Right,
fine, but if, down the road, if you come in and they say you have another variance, but you didn't have approval for it, you might want to address it.
so I
then.
think we could note that for the record. That
Yeah, we can
that's
have,
technically
it'll
correct.
be for the one side yard individual, and then also both. The variance can be for both as well.
Thank you for pointing that out.
That's it.
Mr. Caningo, Councilman Caningo?
No comment, sounds like a reasonable application.
I have a question. On where on the side where you're putting the addition, is there a fence or any landscaping in between?
You want me to answer that? I can answer for you. No, there's nothing there at this point. There's a small sidewalk that leads to the backyard, but there is, beyond that, there's grass. There is no fence between himself and his neighbor.
Okay. And nothing's proposed to be in there?
No.
Okay. All right.
Okay, being that the board has asked their questions, and we've heard from our professional, I'll ask for a motion open to the public.
So moved.
Councilman? Ms. Boland? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, at this point, anybody from the public wish to speak on this application? Going once? Going twice? Can I have a motion to close to the public, please?
So moved.
Ms. Boland?
Second.
Councilman Caningo? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, at this point, being that we had no further questions, anybody else have anything? I'll entertain a motion on this application. I usually do it, but I can't.
I can give it a shot. I'll move.
Mr. Caningo, Councilman, I'm sure you do a great job.
I'll move to accept this application with the changes, as we discussed, to include both sides for setback.
So we had that side yard setback and, excellent. Do I have a
Nice and
second?
simple.
I'll second if that's okay.
We have Mr. Pfeffer, was that the, Mr. Esposito second, and we'll take a roll call, please.
Okay. Ms. Boland?
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Yes.
Mr. Cray?
Yes.
Mr. Kellyan?
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo?
Yes.
And Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Congratulations, sir. Enjoy your addition.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you, board.
We're not as bad as you heard we did.
Have a good evening.
You too.
You too.
Okay. Now, Lupert, go to, no, come on, just come on. This is 527 Wayne Avenue, Block 907, Lot 22. And again, she's coming in for proposed pool and patio, which will increase the lot coverage. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll hand you over to my attorney in a few seconds.
All right, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
It's Nilofer Gulepolo, spelled Gulepoglu, 257 Wayne Avenue, River Ridge.
Okay, and you have a witness with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Could you please raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name, spell your last name, provide your address for the record, and give the board some background on your experience and if you've testified before the board before.
Sure. Angelo Onello, Onello, licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey, number 49284 since 2011. Some background, Bachelor of Science, Civil Engineering, University of Vermont, 2006. Been working since the day I graduated, and it seems to be every single day of the week. But given plenty of testimony in boards throughout the upper 4 counties, mostly Bergen, Passaic, Morris, and Essex County. Some recent towns would be Closter, Mahwah, Upper Saddle River. I know Ms. Boland, engineer for Boswell. There you go.
Well, if Ms. Boland is going to vouch for you, I think that would be,
Now I have a lot to live up to.
he's accepted.
All right, thank you.
You should start out introducing your application.
You did,
and then you can turn it over to me.
I was reading.
So, why don't you give us a brief description, what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, a little bit more than what you did during the first portion.
So, it's the first time, so a little
Not
nervous.
to be nervous. We're all
so-
neighbors.
So I'm trying to build an in-ground swimming pool for the enjoyment of the family and my granddaughter. That's me. I have pictures, I have plans and structures of which I'm going to be reducing the background. The patio that is already existing there will be reduced. I have a fire pit that will be taken away. And but I can show it if you like. I have packets prepared for you guys.
They weren't submitted
No,
previously?
no.
Okay, they can be admitted.
Should I just,
Do you know how many, or
I
how many
have
pages
5.
there are?
7, 9, 10.
They're all different
Let me see
items?
one.
Yes.
Let me see one packet. Is this the full packet right here?
That's one full packet.
Okay. So this would be, Ms. Steinley, am I saying that
Yes.
correctly? It's 1. So will this exhibit A1 or A2? That's A1.
That's A1, okay.
I
So
mean, I don't know, is it? That's the
was
site plan.
that's already submitted? We don't need to mark it if it was already submitted.
That was submitted.
So the first exhibit would be A1, correct?
Sure.
Okay, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Exhibit A1 will be 9 sheets. It's a collection of photographs and schematics drawn by the applicant and taken by the applicant. When did you take these photographs?
In fact, I wrote it down. It was taken on Friday, April the 8th.
Perfect. Let that be the cover sheet. And we'll mark this as A1, and we'll hand it to the board attorney. This is one copy right here?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so this would be marked as A1. It's 9 pages, we said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have a total of 5, but I have one more if you need.
And individual,
You want them?
okay, that's fine, as long as they're
Oh, they're-
individual. All right, so there's,
There's another one, but this is not. Is it enough for
Yeah, you can hold
everybody?
Share. Share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You're the expert of this. I just look over your shoulder.
and you have your copy here?
Yes.
Okay. So,
So when you look at the picture,
hold up the picture you're talking about.
okay. When you look at this picture, you see the the back of the house with the current existing patio, which will be reduced inside going across, so I'll be losing the fire pit, so it's going to be narrower than it is currently.
Just show that to the audience while you're, just hold it up.
Can I ask, when you say it's going to be narrower,
Yeah.
how much, or how many square feet is it being reduced by? Do we have that answer?
Just say your engineer will testify.
Engineer will testify for that.
Oh, thank you.
And why don't you, just tell the board to focus more on the photograph.
And then into the photographs, you will see
Panoramic
there's
view.
a panoramic view. If your back is toward the house, you're looking forward to seeing the retainer wall and the tree and the side view. So this is like a panoramic view of the backyard from looking from behind.
Why don't you explain the landscaping?
Okay, so then the part that's going to be affected is with my neighbor, that is, if your back is to my house, it's on the right-hand side. As you see in this picture, the chain link fence with their bushes, and that will be all be affected, and they'll be removed, and the chain link fence is going to be rolled back for allow for the construction crew to go through that way. And then the chain link fence will be put back, and then I will place all of those removed bushes with arborvitaes along that wall.
Okay?
Okay, so now I'd like to hand it over to my engineer, Mr. Angelo.
So I'm going to ask you just to take those photos and just disseminate them to the audience so they
Sure.
can pass it around a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay?
Thank you. A few housekeeping matters. This plan was prepared by my good colleague, DJ Gary and Associates, underneath my supervision. We work together a lot with local pool companies. Many of them require variances, many do not. But plenty of applications of this nature, which I'll explain. The plan set, the drawing is prepared by DJ Gary and Associates, David J. Gary and P.E., license number 26229. Titled Pool Location and Grading Plan. Is this mic picking me up? Is that okay, or does it need to be?
Well, I think it's,
Fine, better you put it behind.
Yeah, just move it over a little bit. Okay, I'll try to speak up. Plan's titled Pool Location and Grading Plan for the Guliupaglu Residence, 257 Wayne Avenue, Block 907, Lot 22, Borough of River Edge, Bergen County, New Jersey. Original plan date is June 29, 2021, revised through March 8, 2022, which entails both zoning chart, lot coverage, as well as the pre-existing conditions of the residence and its driveway and rear patio, as well as a proposed swimming pool within the center of the rear yard. Before I speak to this plan, I'd like to mark into evidence onto the record Exhibit A2. Ms. Steinle, okay?
This was not
This was not submitted, so this
Okay.
is exhibit.
All right.
This plan specifically, I'm marking A2, is a verbatim of the prior plan I just described. Zoomed 400% at 20 scale, it means it's at 5 scale. So it's 2 scale, it's a zoom view to a larger plan sheet for everybody can see of the plan itself, being that the plan is kind of small for viewing purposes. If anybody from the audience would like to come up, you're more than welcome to come take a look. I'm sorry you're looking at my back. So I'm going to go ahead and use Exhibit A2 to explain a few things. As you can see, the home is centralized within the center of the property, the centroid of the property. There is a 2-car garage, and the driveway it slightly varies in width, anywhere from 18 to 20 feet wide. when it comes down to lot coverage, where can you take away? I'll get to that in the back. However, the driveway, I believe, should remain as is. Removing any side strips or like a little row of pavers is de minimis, is not gonna make or break anything. And the driveway is completely functional for, the standard width of a parking space is anywhere from 9 to 10 feet wide. So, it's the width of 2 parking spaces, and off-street parking is a good thing. I think the driveway should remain as is. The walkway is nothing crazy, it's quite modest. It just leads from the driveway to the front door, and the house is what it is. So, the hardship per se is that the lot coverage, for starters, is already over. And the house is what it is, and the driveway is quite functional, so I believe they should all remain as is, and we can't take out anything from the house. However, the rear patio, the plant, can you hear me over this, Bella? We're good? This is normal?
One more.
4 more.
That's it? Ah, gotcha.
2 more. You may continue.
Cool. Okay, so the rear patio, the plan is to modify it, essentially square it off. Mr. Barron's, when we said narrow, suppose if you're looking from the side, it would be narrow, or shorten its width per se, and take out the fire pit and a strip of pavers. And what we call this here is a Hampton-style pool. It's basically the coping of the pool, then lawn. So it helps break up where you see these pools with expansive patios around them. It's tough to control rainwater. It tends to sheet off to the sides. In this case, it's just basically, we call it non-linear impervious areas. If you dump a cup of water on it, it either goes into the grass or into the pool. So it's kind of de minimis when it comes to stormwater runoff. Now, as far as setbacks go, the pool is centralized within the middle of the rear yard, which is, as you can see from the photographs, is already a swath of grass lawn. It's rather flat with some moderate pitch that goes from left to right when you're looking out the back of the house. It's quite shallow. The applicant, when I discussed with her at her home about when it rains heavy, yeah, I can tell where water would go if it were asphalt. It would probably make its way off to the sides of both properties. However, it seems like the ground seems to soak up the water quite well. There's no real pooling. You should probably put that on the record.
Yeah, there's no pooling. I've never seen a pooling since I've been living there for the past 12 years.
Why don't you say that again?
I have not seen any pooling in my backyard since I've been living there since 2008.
For the record, that was the applicant, not me. So the pool itself, it's a 14 by 28. Some of the pools you see in this area on some of the larger properties are more of 20 by 40, if not bigger, especially when you have some type of inset spa. In this case, there's a schematic, which the applicant should not be bound to, but it shows a couple steps, and I believe this is a sun shelf, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a shelf.
Just
But
a
it's
sun-
going to be removed. It's going to be just steps.
Just a full,
Just steps.
just
Just steps.
just steps into the internals of the pool. So for all intents and purposes, 14 by 28 is 392 square feet, if I can check my math, water surface, which actually helps with stormwater, being that when the water hits the ground now, it has to go somewhere. But when there's water below 6 inches of coping, that allows for 6 inches of storage, and then that's a lot of rain. So 6 inches of water could land in the pool, and then what happens to the water then is, over time, it would evaporate about a quarter inch a day on a hot day. Or if really need be, it could be pumped out through the backwash of the multi-port valve of the pool equipment, which is on the back left side of the house, adjacent to other existing equipment, which is there now as AC units and a generator. In this case, any pool pumping would probably be done through the side yard out onto Wayne Avenue, onto the driveway, which is in kind with NJDEP standards for pumping out pools or cleaning. Regardless, removing the pavers will disconnect from the pool from the patio. That was that patio touching the pool that I was talking about prior. So it's going to be patio ends, then some lawn, then the coping, then the pool. So the Hampton-style pool, surrounded by the rear of the property, you see these squiggly lines, is some cascading low-tier planter retaining walls. They're quite sturdy, I know, because I'm standing on them. They're in good shape. I think they're actually in great shape, and the landscaping is pretty good. And that's another point. The property is incredibly well kept. The landscaping along the left side and the rear is immaculate. The right side could use a little love. The applicant has decided that she's going to remove the chain link fence, put a new pool safety fence, as well as a row of arborvitae evergreens that'll create a wall of green. All things considered, it's, I think the application speaks for itself. The photographs show the panoramic view, I thought is quite helpful. The large 8x11, 8x10 view of the rear patio, you can tell the area that's going to be removed. So I believe that the benefits here outweigh the detriments. I find no detriment being that a pool is a normal and customary use for single-family residents. The benefits would be it would help with stormwater runoff. I don't see any issues to begin with, but this can only make it better, and the enhanced landscaping will definitely be a benefit. Is there any questions?
Why don't we hear from Mr. Behrens first? That's okay with the board? And then we'll ask questions from there. Tom?
I guess, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to start with a few questions just for clarification. So, again, you mentioned reducing the size of the existing patio somewhat. What was that exact figure for the reduction?
Sure.
Or approximately, I mean.
Looks like 88 square feet.
So taking away 88 square feet? And do you know what size patio would remain then? And these aren't meant to be a gotcha question, just for the boards. So what would the remaining patio size be then? Not square footage, but just the dimensions?
Dimensions?
Yeah,
Sure.
what would you be
it's
left
an
with?
Irregular shaped patio, but for all intents and purposes, it looks like it would be, let me go to scale.
Once you square it off,
Yeah,
24 by something?
I got you, hold on. It would be, currently it's about 18 by 30, it's gonna come down to about 15 by 30. But since it's irregular, I think we should go with the square footages that would, it's currently now, and I'm referring to the drawing of record, the site plan. Currently, it's at 494, and it would be reduced 88 square feet to 406 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, a quick calc on the net, if you take the water surface out of the picture, and I know it's lot coverage, but from an actual tangible impervious standpoint, the net is about like 50 square feet. It's nothing.
Right, when you factor in the coping or
Yeah,
whatever.
in fact, the
Right,
coping,
right. Okay.
which is nonlinear, so.
Right, okay. And how about the topography of the site? Is there any slope present?
I'm referring to Exhibit A2 again, which is the zoom scale. It is quite flat, but there is some pitch. I mean, it has to go somewhere. There's a lot of like little valleys throughout the rear lawn area. However, there's about a 10-inch slope from left to right.
Okay.
What, 60? Yeah, about a 10-inch slope over 60, some odd 65, 70 feet, which is it's quite shallow.
Okay.
It's very flat.
Just a few other questions, and then I'll let the board go. So in considering this proposal, have you considered further reducing the size of the patio and/or pool to try to bring it into greater conformity? Has that been discussed?
I can discuss that with
Okay.
the applicant.
All right, well, so I guess the facts are that the property is developed as it is. The existing improved lot coverage, as we call it, is 39.9%, which is above the 35% that's allowed. I did look at the file that we have at the building department, and there was a certain size patio that was permitted that essentially brought it up to the current figure. I think what ended up being developed was slightly larger, but it's, neither here nor there at this point. And so now we're talking about bringing this up to about 45%. And of course, the board has a number of pool applications that come in on an annual basis, so they'll need some justification as to, again, why we're going to 45% versus the permitted 35%. And I'm just wondering if there's any other wiggle room here to, again, try to bring this closer to at least the current condition of 39.9%.
I could throw some suggestions, and I'll discuss with the applicant, my client, if they would be amenable. However, a couple things to point out. The rear patio, it's in pretty good shape as is. It comes out to a landing and then a step down. In my experience, there's not a lot of pools and patios. 12 feet for a lounge chair between that and like the edge for walkway is about the minimum you'd want to go. And the fact that this landing juts out a bit into this patio and it's only going to be about 15 feet, you put some chairs on either side, you'd have to think at least 2 or 3 lounge chase chairs about 7 to 8 feet length. It leaves minimal. However, I think and I think we could probably reduce it a little bit more to answer your question. However, like how much and at what point does it become, like, what are we doing here? That we're already removing the patio as it is to make the pool itself non-linear impervious area. I'm gonna just mentally, if we can block out the water surface area, okay, let's just take that out of the picture. So really there is a reduction in this immediate area here where we're trying to stop water and get it into the lawn. For every extra foot or every extra inch, I don't know how much that's more gonna help. And with a family, with some children, I think the patio is sized quite fine with the reduction. However, let me have a quick sidebar if you don't mind. What about from left to right?
Tom, did they get a variance to get the 35, from 35 to 39?
I did not see a record of a variance, but my predecessor had approved the patio for whatever reason, so there was a permit issued for it.
Okay.
Again, I don't know the history of the
Okay.
situation.
A possible, I just discussed with my client that she really wants the patio sized as is. It was marked out to what the reduction would be, and she's comfortable with it. And a possibility of the patio, why it was approved, I mean, I don't know, but it's pavers on sand.
We don't discount for that, but.
I know,
Right.
but it's possible.
It was approved by my predecessor, so
we don't
I'm
know,
not
right?
going to investigate beyond that. So again, it is what it is, the property development.
There was some ambiguity back then whether pavers with sand
Oh, was, okay.
were considered impervious coverage or not, so I can, yeah, I understand where.
That may be why, okay.
Why
so
that got approved.
That's
Okay.
possible. My final comment for now, at least, is that the location of the pool equipment, I think, should be located more toward the rear yard and further away from the neighboring property if possible for any possible noise disturbance. Yeah, exactly,
Bring it back there.
right.
Is the 5-foot setback itself?
It's technically compliant. I mean, it's an accessory structure. It's really 4 feet. But again, I think trying to be a good neighbor is a good, my understanding is that those things do make some amount of noise. Is that accurate? I'm not 100%. I don't
Yeah,
have a pool.
they've really come a long way in that regard,
Okay.
but I'm not gonna stand here and testify to decibel ratings.
I think if you just move it, that's probably
Just
a reasonable
some-
solution.
I mean, we have a lot of photos, but I think it's no problem moving it. However, if you would not mind, give me a second here. Okay. In this location specifically, there's quite a significant hedge of arborvitae, which leaves a narrow corridor. Would you be okay with moving the pool equipment over here? Or do you really need it back there? Like against?
Okay, aesthetic-wise, but it doesn't matter, whatever.
So what I'm getting at here is I'm going to sketch on here, is in this area seems to be some quite significant, which appears to be like a trimmed pyramidal thuja green giant. I'm not a plant
Arborvitae.
expert. It's thick hedge here, very
Arborvitae.
tall.
Does that block sound?
Well, it's probably the distance, it's about 5 foot itself where I'm sketching in here.
Right.
So I think if we move this pool equipment slightly in front of it, that should be okay. But it would probably, I don't know if it would clear the back line of the house. It's kind of subjective to, I see what you're saying, like, can we move it up a bit? And I don't think it's a problem.
If you said that there's no nuisance, there's no noise being generated, that it's only 3 foot tall, then I don't have a pool, so I don't know.
Yeah, this right
but
here is
if
a
it's an
6 foot-
issue,
It's a
then-
6 foot vinyl fence.
Right.
An opaque fence generally will blockade sound, I mean, it would bounce it up.
Right.
So I think it's if we move it this way a couple feet, it's really not gonna make.
I'll leave it to the board. It's in a technically compliant location, but again, just something to consider. So, Mr. Chairman, for now, I'm done with my comments.
Okay. I'll go to our board members. I'll start with Mr. Esposito.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. You know, one of the things that this board always grapples with when it comes to pool applications is the drainage issue, because the town overall has a drainage problem. Every time there's a hard rain or a storm, there's flooding somewhere, and sometimes the flooding is quite severe. So we always have to grapple with this question, and while we also talk about the percentages of lot coverage and what's permitted and how flexible we should be, and not setting bad precedents so that basically there's no limit at all at a certain point. One of the real issues that everyone is, I think, concerned about is water drainage. So that leads to the question I have about your, and I'm addressing this to your contractor, your statement about how the pool will, in a sense, or in essence, catch rainwater. And so it becomes sort of a storage area for rain that comes down.
Yes.
And could catch a significant amount of rain. I think you mentioned something like up to 6 inches.
Typically, about 6 inches is the distance between the top of the coping and the water surface.
So my question is, what consideration, if any, has been given to the time of the year when the pool is covered? Because we know that at least, I would think in most cases, at least 6 months out of the year, and that's conservative, the pool is going to be covered. So it's going to be a flat surface of some material. Have you considered or factored in any type of drainage system or other mitigation types of measures that would offset the loss of basically soil in that area?
It's a legitimate question. So when the pool is covered, I mean, the pool covers, they're not waterproof. Like, the water falls on it and it seeps through. However, I suppose if we had one of these catastrophic storms, there's a couple schools of thought there. One is when it's raining that hard and it were to sheet off of that type of cover, which it would have to be pretty heavy rain, everybody is getting the rain, not just this property. So that's one way to think about it, okay? If it's heavy enough that it would create a drainage problem from a pool cover, everybody's underneath that type of drainage problem to begin with, just due to the blanketing of a rainstorm coming over the top. Aside from that, there is, along the lines of that school of thought would be, if we could say that the pool cover could permeate waters comparable to lawn, like a spongy lawn, which the applicant has testified that she does have. She doesn't see any pooling in the back. I was there myself. I visited the property, walked the property. It's well-kept landscaping and maintained lawn. So if the lawn can take some water, it can only take so much. So let's pretend this pool isn't here. So if it's raining, the lawn gets saturated. All of a sudden, now that becomes an asphalt lot. And so is the neighbor next door, and the neighbor next door, and all the roadways and everything. So once it's saturated, no matter what water hits that, it can only take so much, and then it's going to sheet off the property into its natural flow and pre-existing condition, which every property owner has rights to, even if you do drain onto other properties, and then so on. Again, I work on plenty of pool applications, and they do not seem to ever be problematic when it's a Hampton-style pool. That is just linear coping around, which is non-linear from a horizontal standpoint. And generally when it's raining, the pool is open. Even if there's an auto cover, the auto cover is below the coping of the pool, a couple inches, and that is hardly a cover. It's just to keep the leaves off, honestly. But when it is covered for out of season, it will take a significant amount of water through the cover. And then anything sheets off, I would say at that point is comparable to the lawn that's there now, and water is going to find its way. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I understand your answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Craig?
Question, the survey from 2008 that shows the existing patio, and then obviously there's the new patio that's there now. Did you have that patio installed, the new patio?
Yes.
Okay, so you bought the house with the smaller existing patio.
Well,
You're the one who,
I bought it when it was, just before it was built from the contractor.
Okay, but the smaller patio existed, you're the one who had the larger patio?
Yes.
Okay, so when we're looking at the existing condition of being already over the allowable coverage, that is a result of a decision that you made to make the patio larger. It wasn't an existing condition that you inherited, correct?
The way the steps were to come out of the sliding doors to it was small, narrow steps, and my mother, who lived me at that time, fell down from those steps multiple times. It was about 3 steps down, wooden steps onto the smaller, and she's now 98 years old and fell multiple times that way. So I wanted to raise it up so that I would have 1 step down onto it and allow her to have a smoother step to be able to get into the patio without injuring herself. That was the reasoning for the revision of the backyard patio.
Okay, but you made the decision to put in the
Yes.
larger patio, so
Yes.
the transition from being in compliance with the coverage requirements to being in a condition that's not in compliance was because you decided you needed and wanted a bigger patio for whatever reason. Okay, so,
Yeah.
and the reason I'm asking that question is because, we were kind of presented that the hardship that exists is because you're already out of compliance, and now putting in the pool is, not gonna be allowed because we already have this existing condition and we need a variance. But the existing condition was because you already chose to put a bigger patio in.
That was how many years ago?
That was in 2010.
I understand, but again, it was your decision to put in the larger
Yes.
patio. So now, you're making another decision to put a pool in.
Yes.
Okay, so you've gotten a variance to put in a larger patio, which already took you, to almost 40% coverage. And now you want to put a pool to go to 45%. You're on a lot that's already oversized. Okay, so your lot's oversized, so there's not a hardship on lot size. So from the standpoint of how much coverage you have, it's more than we allow, from a percentage standpoint, and because it's on an oversized lot, it's even more. So I guess, sitting here looking at this and reviewing it, you don't want to make the patio any smaller, you don't want to make any other changes, you just want, again,
I
more
am
of a
making the
variance without being
but the
able
thing
to
is, I am
accommodate.
making the patio smaller. I am reducing it on a linear,
Well,
but
a
it's
very small
long.
amount. A very small, if you look at the size of the patio that existed to the size of the patio that you put in, that's basically the 5% that you're already over. Now, the pool is another 5%. Okay, so again, both things are things that, they're not hardship situations.
Keep listening.
And I guess, given that, I guess I'd like to hear some explanation of either what the hardship is that's being overcome, or what's the positive value to the borough. I mean, because one of those two things has to be true for us to be able to consider this.
Well, it's that, then we can reduce it from the side
Just
again.
right here.
From the side.
Hold on, just,
What?
would you be willing to take?
Yes, yes.
3 feet? 3 feet? Okay. Mr. Cray, if I may, speaking with the applicant, and we hear your concerns about reduction of the patio, a couple things about the self-created hardship. Clearly, there was no ill will here, and at the time, it was a predecessor for zoning that, let's just entertain the fact that this was approved for patio over the limit, probably due to pavers over sand. It's neither here nor there, it is what it is, right? It's counted as blacktop today. After speaking with the applicant, she would be willing to remove 3 feet on the right side, which I'm gonna mark on Exhibit A2. And I'm gonna show you how that's gonna also create a benefit, especially to the right side neighbor.
Can you give us the calculations on that, too?
Sure. Again, this is approximate, it's gonna be irregular. I'm gonna highlight it. In fact, I'm gonna highlight all the areas for removal. So for graphics, I'm gonna draw on Exhibit A2. And members of the public are more than welcome to come up. that is 3 feet by 15. I put my calculator, that's 45 square feet. Additional atop the, what did we say, 88 already?
Yeah, I think that was your figure, yeah.
The 88 is already counted in the 45%, so you're not going to remove it twice.
Well, I'm just saying for overall, the patio would be,
So you're knocking off about 0.5%. That.
so 88 plus 45. Out of the patio, the rear patio now is 494. With this amendment here to reduce an additional 3 feet from the right side, would knock it down to, would knock the patio from 494, which is basically 500, down to 361, 360.
What does that bring the impervious coverage down to?
Calculation, like percentage-wise?
Basically 40 feet, 45 feet less than you had, so. 45 feet out of 8,800.
44 and a half.
So I have,
It's 0.5%.
Now, again, it doesn't count, but if we can mentally picture taking the pool water surface out, no pun intended, it's a wash. And the fact that we're taking the impervious area from the near side, which when you put impervious areas immediately against property lines, it's tough to control the drainage. It will allow for the applicant to do more lawn and landscaping in this area immediately against the affected property owner. And walking this corridor here on the back right side, the water does appear to pitch to the backyards, not into the resident's house as it is. Even if it did encroach on the property line from a stormwater standpoint, it's a direct benefit. So if the overall actual tangible impervious areas is plus or minus a few square feet even, that's taking the water surface out of the picture. I think that the benefits would be removing impervious areas from the existing patio to shrink it smaller. Again, reiterating this, the extensive landscaping along the right side, which is not really there now, and the improvements to stormwater runoff because of the pool water surface itself acting as storage at the surface. A couple things about the landing in the back. It's always a good idea to have a landing for the reasons that the applicant had stated about walking out versus walking down a couple steps. Landings are a good thing, especially coming out of a sliding glass door in and out of the pool area. I think with the further reduced patio, the owners will still be able to get a few lounge chairs there and a nice table for enjoying the premises out to the rear.
I'm just going to jump in real quick. So a couple things I want to clarify. So the ordinance provision actually is not impervious coverage. It's improved lot coverage, which has to do with the man-made features that cover the land, for the purposes of providing, green space, light air, and open space. So I think the focus shouldn't be so much on impervious, but how much of the land is actually developed. That's really the crux of the issue. So that's one aspect. I think we're all familiar with the way that pools function. What we really need at this point is I think a meaningful, I'll say, compromise. To get this thing lower and shaving off a foot here, a foot there, we're going to be going in circles for 2 hours. So I think you need to come up again with something with that. And in terms of a meaningful public benefit that you might offer, given the way that the property drains or is sloped, it sounds like there may be water that goes, again, from left to right and is impacting the property owner to the right. Maybe installing something like a French drain along that property line that brings the water to the street or to an existing seepage pit would be a public benefit that you could actually hang your hat on. Those are just some thoughts.
It's a good suggestion. Did I elaborate on that? So during the, that's a yes?
yeah, sure.
Okay. During the construction of the pool, this yard is clearly going to be excavated. And there is the existing roof runoff now is collected into the downspouts from the gutters, which go into a known dry well in the back right side of the yard. I think there's a good chance that we're going to encounter, not we, but the excavators are going to encounter that dry well. And what a better opportunity to put a drain at the low point along the right-hand side, 12-inch or 18-inch yard drain, probably 12-inch would be fine to help with any runoff that was going in that direction. I'm gonna mark the exhibit to what I'm talking about. So when I say, there's some spot elevations here, again, it's kind of flat, but from what I've seen based on my site visit, the low point is somewhere in this area. I think if the dry well is kind of right here, I think if we can put an inlet here, or directly atop the dry well, which will double as easy inspection and also inflow for any waters that coagulate in this area to infiltrate directly into the dry well. I mean, let's face it, the dry well was sized for the stormwater runoff from the residents, but I can tell you from experience, you don't design the dry wells from the precaster to fit exactly. You come in different sizes, 500, 1,000, and they're usually upsized a bit. So, I mean, we would have to put into the resolution, if the board chooses to vote favorably, that the applicant would be willing to have the town engineer inspect the dry well during construction to verify its capacity. As far as upsizing the dry well, I don't really know what you'd get out of that, being that the actual tangible impervious is kind of the same. However, allowing the lawn areas to go into the dry well would definitely provide a direct benefit. It's kind of intuitive in that fashion. It's a good suggestion. So I think we should add that into the amendment of the plan to allow a surface inlet opening either aside the dry well with a catch basin, small catch basin with a pipe that goes into the dry well, or if the dry well is located in a suitable location to put the drainage inlet directly atop the dry well, which realistically they all should have anyways, but what happens is after construction, the landscapers just cover up the inspection port. So here would be a good opportunity to provide an inlet grate.
Ms. Boland?
Just to repeat what Mr. Cray said, is that we struggle with lot coverages over typically 40% for lots that are not a hardship with size, undersized. Have you considered reducing the size of the pool?
I already reduced it from, it was 15, the one size up was 15 by 30. I reduced it to 14 by the 28.
This would be to try to get it closer to conformance. I typed in, typical, just in Google just now, typical pool sizes, and there are typical pool sizes less than this.
It becomes very small, even if you put 2 or 3 people in it. I know the one size below that would be 12 by 24, and it's pretty small.
My only comment.
Councilman Caningo.
Thank you, sir. I guess just some comments. I kind of echo what's been said here, especially about that 45% figure, and I'm not really willing to get to that threshold, especially because I'm not really hearing any real compromises here. I also didn't hear anything about any benefits to the community, and I haven't really heard anything about a hardship. So I don't think I could vote for this, but I certainly reserve the right to question more after we hear the public portion of this hearing.
Good. I am going to withhold my questions and comments until after we hear from the public, if that's okay. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed, any abstained? Public, this is your opportunity to speak. I'm going to start with the third row from the right. Please come up, state your name and address, clearly for the record.
Should we have the applicant move?
Maybe that microphone and if that one's on.
We're going to turn that mic, yep, Gary?
Name is Peter Link. I reside at 261 Wayne Avenue in River Edge.
Spell your last name, sir?
Linke. I am the neighbor on the right-hand side. I have absolutely no objections to a pool. My major concern is the water issue. I've been in that house for 26 years now, 27, and the water is my most major concern. That yard has been flooded any number of times. Even with the last storm that we had, my backyard was flooded. If you look at one of the pictures that was presented, you can see the way the backyard is pitched. This is my yard over here in the rear corner. I'm probably the lowest point in all the houses around. I don't know what the size of the pit is right now. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably 1,000, which in my estimation is not enough, because that whole area where we are, it's all clay. And the water does not percolate down into the ground very quickly at all. I have in the rear of my yard, which this is the fence, my yard is right over here. I actually have a pump in my backyard that pumps the water up, because the way the houses are, we're lower than street level, especially in the backyard. My major concern was, where is the backwash going to go to? I know you said the backwash is going to backwash out onto the lawn.
You're asking me a question, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure you're asking me. Prior, in my testimony, I said that the pool pump backwash will come out the left-hand side onto the landscaped area and onto the driveway and onto Wayne Avenue, if it's for the pump.
So it's actually going to pump it out onto the driveway and out into the street
Yes.
when the backwash does?
That's standard procedure.
Okay. And during heavy rain, what's going to happen when the pool fills up and the water level needs to be lowered? Where is that water going to go?
Well, for starters, it's going to hold up to 6 inches, which is significant. And then, if and when it needs to be lowered, if evaporation's not doing it, the same method through a multi-point valve will be pumped in the same direction out onto Wayne Avenue.
Okay, and that'll all be installed when the pool is put in?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said, my major issue is the water situation. You know, especially the way the yards are pitched. And if you look at the one picture of the back of the house, you can see the way the patio itself is pitched towards me. I don't have a problem with that, but it would make things a little easier for me if the pitch was rectified. I don't know what you could do with that. If you pitch it to the backyard, it's still going to wind up by me anyway.
Mr. Lane, if I may, to answer your question, if you can turn that into a question to me. What we were saying before is that this drywall will be encountered during construction. It can easily be fitted with a casting when a riser to surface with a surface grate. Your low point, if you look at these elevations, here, is 59.2. This is a contour 60, which means there's a 10-inch differential across the lawn of about 60 feet. It's shallow, I'll give you that, but it does pitch in this direction. I've seen your pump, I know what you're talking about, so clearly you do have a low point here and now. If we can capture this runoff here, the applicant will be installing landscaping. We can form a graded drainage swale. For anything that comes off of this patio to find its way to the same inlet will go into this dry well, which will benefit you because it's not going onto your property. And then the water that lands on this lawn, take the pool out, the lawn now goes onto your property. With the pool here, it'll take up to 6 inches of rainfall over the top of the pool.
Okay.
That'll hold it in there. Now, if and when that fills up to 6 inches, which would be a significant rainstorm, I know we're all a little antsy because we've been through a lot of them, and I have some properties that had some damage, I feel it. What happened, we'll hold to 6 inches, and then if it needs to be drained, it could be pumped out onto Wayne Avenue, or like I said, it would evaporate at a 1/4 inch per day in the summer months.
Now, you were proposing that the backwash and the pump, the pool filter and everything would be located over here?
No, still in the same location here.
Okay.
And then if it's just drawn out and pumped out. It's rare that you have to pump a pool out due to overflow. It's rare. But if need be, it could be stipulated. This is a public application that will have stipulations with it. The board as a resolution of approval that the applicant is bound to. So certain criteria of, it's not that we can just say we're gonna do this and they don't do it.
Right.
They're bound to do it. So they're bound to put an inlet here. They would be bound to put a drainage swale which captures the water coming off this patio.
Right.
If need be, a secondary catch basin could be put here to get into the dry well.
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't know what size of the
Probably-
cylinder is.
My
of
quick
the dry
calculation
well.
is probably 1,000. I just did
Yeah,
a
well,
quick
that's what I
calc.
thought, because I remember when they built the house and it was put in, it looked like it was 1,000, because I know the different sizes. But like I said, that's my major issue. I have no problem with anything else other than the water situation, which is getting worse and worse.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're together, so I'm his son-in-law.
Oh,
just wanna-
yeah, just one
Yeah.
more question. Is not gonna be any more trees removed?
No.
No, okay. Okay.
That was one of the questions.
Because one of, the trees soak up a lot of water.
Okay, so, thank you. You're gonna have to state your name and address for the record, and
Okay.
spell your last name, please.
Last name is Peyko, P-E-Y-K-O. First name is Mark. And I was really just here for support and to make sure that he hit all the questions that he wanted to address.
Can you provide your
And there-
address for the record?
Sorry. 129 Chestnut Street in Emerson.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe at the edge of the landing.
That's a considerable amount of flooding to get to you, I believe.
Yeah, especially last week alone, there was flooding just, I mean, if you just go onto Google calculators and you do 1,000 square foot roof at an inch an hour, you're gonna get 1,000 gallons of water. So
That's an extra.
immediately, and we get an inch an hour all the time. So this thing, I'm afraid of that thing filling up, and then now you're putting more water in it, and then you're draining onto that side, because there is a slope. If you're saying 10 inches, but if you stand there, I mean, just visually, it looks more. But we have a low spot, not just from that yard, the one behind us and the one even behind that. On the topography, is sloped basically right into my father-in-law's backyard. So I just want to reiterate that everything is sloping in that direction.
Father-in-law, okay, now I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next up, please come on up. Oh, okay, I saw you wave hello. Again, I'm going to ask you to state your name and address, spell your last name, and then you can go from there.
My name is Mary Napoleon Cease, Napoleon hyphen S as in Sam, U-E-S-S as in Sam. And I live at 247 Wayne Avenue, River Ridge, New Jersey. So my concern, of course, is water. But even more so now tonight that I came to this, I realized that all the equipment is going to be right but up against where I enjoy my own backyard. Personally, I have a pool. It's above ground. It's 12 by 18. And my pool is looks to be right where they want to put all of that equipment. So I have a little problem with that. My other concern is I have 3 land surveys here dating back decades, and none of them, like there's a couple of discrepancies on here when we look at this land survey. And there was a problem when the house was being built. My husband was addressing it with the builder, and unfortunately, my husband tragically passed away at that time, like in the midst of all that.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. So I dropped the ball with that, honestly, because I had a 6-year-old son, and that was kind of like not the first thing on my mind. Then, several years later, I went to address it again, and my dad took sick. So the land surveys I have are from 2008, and then there's another one, I believe, from like 2013, and then I have the original one from when I bought the house in 1996. So I just bought those. Maybe you could look these over and.
So the question I would have is, how are they relevant to the neighbors?
Well, because it's so close to my property.
But we understand that, and we can see that from the.
Right.
But, so I don't think those are really going to be relevant to anything new that we're trying to learn here. You agree?
Well,
Is there something on there that he doesn't have on there that,
well, the longitude and latitude is off.
Well, ma'am, did you prepare the surveys? Did you prepare them?
No, I didn't
Okay.
prepare them. I mean, they're
The
legitimate
applicant would have to have
surveys.
the opportunity to
Look at my surveys?
examine
Okay.
those surveys and cross-examine the person who
Okay.
created them.
I mean, I have nothing at all against a pool. I love my pool. I just, you know, all the equipment so close to me, and then how close everything is, really. I mean, we kind of are on top of each other.
Your pool, ma'am, is in this area here, correct? Right where it's sketched back here?
Yes.
Okay, so the pool
It
equipment.
seems to be. I can't say, I mean, this is not the easiest thing to
I
interpret.
feel you. I get it. I'm gonna walk you through this, and I hope I answer your question. Okay, this is a 2-scale drawing. We are sketching on this exhibit. It's becoming a lot going on here. But your home has some type, is this like a covered terrace or something you have here? This is your house comes out this far? Your house, the back part of your house, between the pool and the street, there's some part of your house. Because basically what I've seen from the aerial photography imagery is your pool is in the back over here.
Yes.
So the pool equipment is over here. And if this is the scale, we're talking a good 50 feet.
No, my pool is right outside. My pool, you see this chain link fence?
Yes? There's a 6-foot vinyl fence here.
Mm-hmm.
What, is your pool
My
behind?
pool is more over here.
Behind the
No.
6-foot vinyl fence?
It's not behind the vinyl fence, it's behind the chain link fence.
See, this is 257.
Yeah, but it's not here. It's like, it's in between, to tell you the truth.
This is.
Right.
This is where we're putting equipment, and your pool's back here. So 2 scale, your pool's here. And this is about 40, at a minimum, 40 feet from this pool.
So this is gonna be,
This is the hedge that's there now, that tall hedge. That's what I'm saying. What part of your house is that?
would he be using
What part of your house is that?
Google Earth during his testimony? We're going to use his phone
That's your house, that's your house.
for evidence.
What part of your house is
oh, this is my deck.
Okay,
He's
so you
using
have a
Google
deck
Earth
right here.
Mm-hmm.
on his phone.
That's what I'm getting at.
Gonna-
You have
he's
a
gonna
deck
mark it
here, and
on
your
the
pool's behind it. So
Okay.
you have amenities back here, you have a deck and a pool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and in between your deck and this property is a 6-foot-high opaque
Right.
fence, and then a tall arborvitae hedge.
Okay.
And behind that, right now, is some AC equipment, and then the proposed pool equipment.
Okay.
And
All right,
your
I
pool
get it.
equipment is
I
where?
was concerned that it was right up against where my
So-
pool is.
No, if you saw the picture, you would understand. Your pool is right back there,
Yes.
and your property's there.
Here, here's my
And-
deck,
and
and here's
what
a-
they're talking about
It's
is gonna
over
be
here.
over there.
Okay. All right, then I
And your
misunderstood.
pool equipment in proximation to your pool is where, roughly? This is your pool.
My equipment is underneath my pool.
Okay, so it's
It's
right next to
under
your
the
pool.
deck. Yeah.
All right, so your pool equipment for your pool and your amenities and your deck is right underneath your deck.
Yeah.
So it's right up on it. And this one, it's gonna be several feet away, meeting the criteria of the zoning ordinance within the property with a 6-foot-high
Okay.
opaque fence and an arborvitae hedge.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You got it.
And
Thank
that's
you.
it. Thank you.
Okay. We are down to the 4th row. Anybody? 5th row? 4th row? Okay. So I know you've heard the spiel, but I'm going to ask you to give your name, address, and spell your last name for us, for the record,
Christiana
please.
Evers, Evers, 229 Wayne Avenue in River Edge, New Jersey. And so my questions and what brought me here tonight is really similar to what my neighbors have shared and what you have raised as well. It's the issues of drainage. This area of town, I've lived in River Edge since 2004, and this area of town continues to flood even more than before. I'm shocked that you've never had pooling in your backyard, because all of our houses around, there's been pooling. When the retaining wall went in, that caused increased pooling, honestly, for some of the other properties. So just wanting to make sure that if the town does vote in favor of this application, that there are the necessary steps put in place to protect the rest of us from this, this issue that it does exist in River Edge related to water and related to drainage issues. And so, happy to hear that tree isn't coming down, but what other steps can be taken to make sure that putting this pool in, which is, I appreciate you don't want a smaller pool, but it's a decent-sized pool, is not going to negatively impact the rest of us who live
If
around
this
here.
application does happen to be approved by the board, and I can't speak for the board, it automatically triggers a review from our borough engineer. And correct me if I'm wrong?
I
Right?
believe that's standard procedure.
Yeah, and our borough engineer will then do his water calculations on the property, and if he requires additional remediation, he'll enforce it. So, so he'll look at it. It doesn't mean that he's going to do anything, but it's reviewed by him. Correct?
So-
Am I?
I believe that's
Yeah.
how it works. Right.
And we'll make sure we put that if it does get approved, it'll be put in the approval that it's reviewed by our borough engineer.
And on average, how many pools do you approve each year that would result in a 45% coverage?
It's kind of a tricky question because every lot has to be reviewed on its own merits.
Right.
But I would say the board reviews probably 5 to 10 pool applications on an annual basis. But again, it
Especially
varies.
since COVID.
Yeah.
More so since COVID, right?
But not all lots are the same.
No, I appreciate
You have
that.
to look at each one.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, again, drainage, making sure that if this plan goes through, that there's a plan in place to protect the rest of the neighbors.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
We have two people in the back we haven't heard from, or are we going to, or? You already know what you need to do.
Deanna Kelly. I live directly behind our neighbors.
You need the
225
address?
Beach Drive North, River Edge, New Jersey.
And spell your last name for us, please.
Kelly.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, again, my concern is just water. We have a lot of pooling in our backyard when it rains, and it's since the retaining wall went up in your yard. And that's really just my main concern. I'm happy to hear about extra drainage going in to avoid pooling for the neighbors to the right. But we have had a lot of pooling. My husband spent COVID regrading our backyard, and it really didn't help at all. So that's really our biggest concern, because we don't want it to get worse. And that's really it. I love a pool. I grew up with a pool. I'm so happy if you get a pool, but I'm very concerned about my yard, so.
Thank you.
Really all I have.
Anybody else from the audience wish to speak? Nobody answering in affirm. I'll ask for a motion to close to the public.
I'll move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? I'm going to ask my board one more time. Anybody have any more questions from what we've heard? No. Okay, so I reserve till the last.
I spoke with my applicant about some possible amendments.
So I think you heard some of the board members having some reservations. I don't know if you'd like to take a couple minutes and speak to your client. My thought process, just my personal opinion, would be either the pool or the deck. I don't see any other way around this. You're certainly not going to make you rip up your driveway. So if you'd like a couple minutes with your client, I would allow for a quick recess, if that's what you want to do.
Probably need 2-3 minutes at most.
Okay, can I have a motion to recess? Second? All in favor? Aye. We're at recess. We'll reconvene at 9 o'clock. It's 8:54. Sir, are you prepared to move forward?
Yes, sir.
I will reconvene the meeting a couple seconds early here. It's 8:59 PM. And I'm going to ask our attorney to call the roll, please.
All right, Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Here.
Councilman Kenigo,
Here.
Mr. Esposito.
Here.
All right, everyone is back.
For the record, everybody that was here before we recessed is here still. So, again, I made some comments earlier. Unfortunately, when we get to this improved lot coverage, especially after what we just dealt with last week with people in New Milford getting carried out in boats, water is a really, really serious issue with us here in town. And we take our lot coverage very seriously on the board, and it's it's a very difficult decision. We understand that the want and the need for a pool for your children or your grandchildren, and we try to weigh that with the fact that your neighbors don't want to take on the additional water that the additional coverage adds to. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Absolutely. After speaking, well, since you just reopened the hearing, this is Angelo Onello, engineer for the applicant. After speaking with my client, we hear the board and mainly the public's concerns loud and clear. I'd like to point out a few additional amendments that we'd like to make to the plan, specifically to the benefit of the public good.
Here we go. Now you're going to have 9 now.
This is the calling, right? Does that go every hour?
Every hour.
So it's been an hour.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I was commenting, I don't know if you heard it, but we just started coming back in person again. I've been on the board for about 26 years, so I've had to deal with this for that long. And it used to be annoying, but I told the councilman, I said it was music to my ears this evening to be able to hear that back again.
Yes.
Yeah. Better than, what is it, the fire whistles?
No, it's just a church.
Yeah, that's okay. The fire whistle.
The fire whistle is
Yeah.
really a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I feel you there. What are we up to?
I think that's 5.
Let's just wait. All right, quick sidebar, if you want to laugh, and I hope this doesn't dissuade the decision. During my actual wedding ceremony, a freight train came by. And the Justice of the Peace, whatever you call it, he kept talking, and I had to stop. I'm like, hey, there's a freight train going on. You want to wait a minute? And then we let it pass, and, you know.
You're sure you're married, correct?
I got railroaded in to get married, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
The top road, it's all good. Comedy aside, I mean, on a serious note, about this application, we hear the public's concerns loud and clear. It's nice to get an understanding of the neighbors that are immediately, and it's great that you all came out. The neighbors immediately adjacent to the property, which you're the most impacted. I believe that the neighbor to the left, I'm sorry, I forgot all your names, but the neighbor to the left, the pool location with the pool equipment, it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another. You got a pool with equipment. This would be a pool with some equipment. There's adequate screening. There's a 6-foot opaque fence. With respect to the neighbor to the rear, this property is downhill, approximately 4.5 feet. So this in no way, shape, or form would affect the proposed construction activity, affect your drainage, which is uphill. I'm sorry for your on-site troubles, but anything that went down here would have nothing to do with your rear yard. With respect to the neighbor to the right, which I believe is Link,
yes.
which I believe is the Link property, which is by far the most affected. The paver patio will be redone, okay? You heard me state before in testimony about 12 feet, preferably 13 feet for a lounge chair between that and the edge of the patio to provide a little bit of a walking area, and then the lawn and the pool I think is suitable. What we're proposing is to remove this patio completely and then rebuild a much smaller 13 by 18 patio. We were just talking about dimensions and things like tables, chairs, and whatnot, which would be a 234 square foot patio versus the current patio, which is 494, would be a reduction of 260 square feet. Basically 234, hold on a second. I want to check something. 47%. We're cutting it in half and then some. So the patio is going to be reworked and then redone, and the landing, which I think is crucial, will be reworked. The landing that's there now is kind of a half-shaped moon. It could be squared off. If the patio is going to be squared off to a small 13 by 18, the landing will also be reworked. Furthermore, the edge of patio will start at the proposed, would start at the edge of the door. If you can all pull up your packets that were delivered to your, the rear photo there in packet exhibit A1, the rear of the residence. Yeah, that one right there. If you can pull that up so that everybody can see it.
Sure.
This photograph here out of exhibit A1, the new patio would start at the left side of that door looking at it from the rear yard. So that patio is significantly further away from the Link property, approximately from the edge of the house. I think it's approximately 12 feet away. So the patio would start there. Now, what goes in its place? Proposed lawn and landscaping along this whole right side corridor with an additional drainage inlet located where I'm pointing on this plan, and we can configure a way to put this into the record. A drainage inlet would be implemented to directly catch the runoff from the patio, which has no drainage inlet now. And then from there into the dry well, which we are assuming is 1,000 gallons. I would have to think it would be based on the 2,000 some odd square foot house. Rough calculation, which a standard 2 or 3 inches of rainfall calls for 1,000 gallon. Whatever it is, the dry well has no opening now other than for the roof water. So it would be opened up to catch surface water from the rear yard, which is, the lawn area is going to be cut in half because the pool's going there. So the water falls in the pool, it stays in the pool. So that's storage in itself. And then anything residual from the lawn areas can be captured into the dry well. Anything from the patio can be a direct runoff captured into a catch basin, which can be piped to the dry well as well. Probably a 4-inch pipe would do it. If you want it for cleaning purposes, a 6-inch pipe on a short run is not a big deal. And then the whole corridor will be significantly landscaped, which that would act as a sponge as well. So from a stormwater runoff, I know I keep saying this, but if we can take the pool out of the equation, now we would have a net reduction in tangible impervious areas, which is a direct benefit for stormwater runoff. Landscaping, a direct benefit for screening and also to help sponge the water for stormwater runoff. Obviously, this all relates around stormwater runoff. Why some patio left? Because a patio can be used if the weather is compliant. Everybody uses their patio all year round. It's warm in December and January sometimes. But for predominant use, about 3/4 of the year, the applicant would use the patio regardless. You're not always in the pool. You're not hanging out on the lawn. Maybe in a chair having an outdoor meal with your family is normal and customary. So I think the patio being rebuilt at a much smaller scale, more than 50% of its existing size, with stormwater facilities that are not there now, provides a direct benefit for, definitely the neighbors. I don't know what else there is to say. Would you like to add anything else? Okay.
Mr. Behrens?
I'm doing a quick calculation, Mr. Chairman, to see where we're at. So, what's that?
Can I hold you a second?
Yeah.
Sorry, to state back, I have a letter from the record from Costa Engineering. Is the town engineer or the board engineer? Both, okay. At no point in the letter did it jump out with any drainage concerns.
You've heard?
Yeah.
We're here now. So.
That's what I'm saying. But the town engineer's review of this plan had no concerns. But who knows better than the public? So.
Well,
yeah.
let's chill out for a second.
Okay.
When did that come, what is the date of that letter? And what was it in response to? To your pool plan or to the construction of the home?
It was in April 4th, 2022.
Okay.
Which is recent. And it discusses, it lists the plan, it lists the lot coverage. And as far as.
All right, well, you can.
Nothing.
Relax with the comments. Okay, so you have a letter from, what is the letter? I haven't reviewed the letter. Maybe pass it to the attorney so we can insert that
This
into
is
the
the
record.
letter that Acosta's
I haven't
report.
read the letter, so.
Okay, you want to pass that to Tom?
It may be, thank you.
You can look at it.
I mean, it's up to the board how you want to deal with the drainage. It typically does go to Mr. Costa for review, so.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned about his letter prior to the application. He'll take our instruction post if there is an approval. But did you work some numbers for us?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll ask the applicant's engineer to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm basing this off of the lot coverage table on the engineering pool plan. So we have the house that's 2,222 square feet, the driveway and front walk that's 790 square feet, The rear patio is now being reduced to 234 square feet, and the proposed pool is actually 392 square feet, I believe, right?
No.
Because 480 may have been the larger size?
Yes, and you just raised a good point. When discussing with the applicant, we would like to make the pool slightly smaller by 14 by 26.
So what does that get us to?
14, so 14,
26.
so let's break it down, water surface and coping, okay? So 14 by 26,
I feel like I'm at the racetrack.
364 square feet. You need to add a foot all around, so it would be 16 plus 16 plus, it'd be 88 square feet of coping. So the overall pool would be proposed from 480 down to 452. It's slightly smaller. The discussion with respect to that 14-foot width, 12 feet is a little narrow, and 14 feet is kind of nice when you're congregating in a pool. It's not so much the overall length, but a 14 by 26 foot, I thought 14 by 28 is fine, but 14 by 26, I think will also assist to shrink this down a notch for whatever it's worth.
Bear with me once. So when I add up the house, the driveway, the new rear patio, that's 234 square feet, and the proposed pool, that's 452 square feet. To be honest, when I do reviews, I don't count the utility pads, the air conditioning units, so I'm discounting the 22 square feet and 32 square feet. So what I ended up with those four factors that I mentioned is about 3,698 square feet, which translates to a lot coverage of 42.1%.
40,
42.1%.
42.1.
I believe that is the proposal on the table.
Give me a second, please. 3464 is what you had?
I had 3698. Again, you had
That's
the
what I got, too.
2,222 plus 790 plus 234 plus 452.
What was the number you got? Sorry, I didn't write that down.
3698.
That's what I got,
Okay.
which translates to 42.12%.
That's what I got. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
So for the record, just repeat that. What's the lot coverage now?
Sure.
The
So
amended plan?
amending plan with the rebuilt patio, and the allowance to not count the utility pads and the equipment pads would total 3,698 square feet, which equates to a lot coverage of 42.12% proposed.
And just to clarify, it's improved lot coverage. There's a difference in our ordinance.
Oh.
Yep.
Improved lot coverage, including the pool, correct?
Okay.
Which is
Anybody else from the board with the new information wish to speak? Ask a question?
Just, one other comment. You said you'd be removing the fence on the right side and replacing it. It's not on the property line. When you replace it, you'll put it back where it belongs?
Yes.
Okay.
along the property line.
Along the property line, yes,
Councilman?
if it gets approved.
Nothing. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would just, because we got into the weeds with the numbers, but I just want to make sure that the proposal also includes the landscaping that you mentioned in the space where the patio has been reduced, that area would also include some additional landscaping. And that the whole proposal would be subject to the engineer's
Review from the engineer, of
review
course.
regarding drainage.
Would you like me to give a rundown of the proposed items? I can itemize them.
I believe we have them itemized already
I
by,
can run them down just so then I have my notes
Yeah.
correct. So the applicant is amending the application to request an improved lot coverage variance up to 42.1%. The applicant proposes to remove the existing patio entirely and rebuild it at a size of 13 feet by 18 feet, or approximately 234 square feet. The applicant proposes to move the location of the patio away from the right lot line. I didn't get the foot, but that will be
Just put-
marked.
Say equidistant with the edge of the doorway.
Okay. Additional drainage inlet will be installed to directly catch drainage from the patio and be directed into the dry well. An inlet will be added to an additional inlet will be added to the dry well, and landscaping will be installed along the right side of the property to provide screening and additional runoff. And catch additional runoff. The applicant proposes to reduce the pool size to 14 feet by 26 feet, including coping, to a total of approximately 452 square feet. The applicant will replace the fence along the property line and will comply with borough engineer recommendations regarding drainage and any additional mitigation that is required.
That's precisely what I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Just going to ask the board, with this new information, do you want to open it back up to the public and see if they have any more comments on the additional information that was provided?
I would always like to hear from the
Yep.
public.
So can we have a motion on that, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, you've heard the amendments that have been agreed to by the applicant. That doesn't mean it's going to be an automatic approval, but you see that they've bent. Does anybody have any more questions or comments?
I just have one more question. When the town engineer,
I'm sorry, could you come up to the microphone and just state your name again?
Peter Link, Linke, 261 Wayne Avenue. When the town engineer looks at the property and the plan, does he actually look at anything as far as water runoff and stuff like that?
Yes, so when the applicant requests a soil movement permit from the borough,
Mhm.
then the borough engineer does a review at that time and will recommend any drainage mitigation that needs to be included, and then the applicant will have to comply, or if they don't want to follow those recommendations, then they would have to either come back to the board or change their application.
And that would be in addition to what we've already agreed to.
Right, and he will also be looking at my property.
I suggest that you call the
I
building
should-
department and
Right,
ask to
and-
have them call you.
Okay,
Name is Rob Costa. He's
Mhm.
usually very, very available.
okay, fine.
Perhaps we can make sure that Mr. Costa contact the neighbors and speak to the neighbors in his investigation. So we
Tom?
don't leave it up to
You'll take care of that?
individuals.
Have Tom contact the neighbors. After the meeting's over, you can give Tom your telephone numbers, and we'll make sure it gets to Mr. Costa.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, a motion to, nobody else, correct? Everybody else good? Motion to close to the public?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, board, you've heard testimony, you've heard the revisions. At this point, I am open to take a motion on this application. Mr. Pfeffer?
You're calling on me. Wow. Yeah, I think, given the amendments that have been offered by the applicant, and certainly taking into consideration the comments of the public, and the fact that we will have this reviewed by the engineer, that I would be inclined to support the application at this time. And so I would move to approve the application. I'm a little reluctant to try to recite all the details again, but as stated by...
All-inclusive with our board attorney.
Before we have a motion, though,
comments.
can we just make another comment before we take the motion?
Sure.
I thought we were going to have another opportunity.
I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I appreciate the concessions that have been made, but I still think that the 42.1% number is a rather large number, especially because of the size of this house. We're not talking about a very small property that is asking us for concessions because they don't have the size. This is a large property, and it's a very large house. So I haven't really seen yet the benefits to the community, and I haven't seen the hardship. So for that reason, I personally would be inclined not to support it, and I just wanted to state my reasons on the record before we take a vote on a motion.
All right, so we do have a motion. I do need a second. Mr. Cray?
Okay. 1 second. Thank you. All right. Ms. Boland?
I'm struggling with it as well, but I do think with the concessions and the fact that people like to have pools, that I would say yes.
Okay. Mr. Pfeffer?
As stated, I do approve. I guess I just want to, since I have the floor, I'll just briefly say to the applicant that it's not an issue that obviously the board is taking lightly either way, you know, and so I do, it helped me make my decision that you were very flexible and considerate of the issues raised by your neighbors. So that has helped me to make my decision. But it is a tough decision, and we don't, as a board, like to go over the permitted percentages. But I think in this case, as we do in other cases, sometimes we can make compromises. So having said that, I would vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cray?
This is tough. And I think, like the councilman, I have a problem with the fact that we have an oversized lot, and we hold people on much smaller lots to strict guidelines. And because of that, I can't see my way clear to approving this. I do appreciate that you were flexible in trying to compromise, but I can't see holding someone with a lot the size that you have to a looser standard than we do to people who have greater hardships. So I'm going to have to vote no.
All right. Mr. Arkalian?
I will defer to the end.
Okay. Councilman Kenigo?
No.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
All right, and back to Mr. Arkalian.
So what is the count, please?
3-2.
3-2. So I would have liked you to come back to the room, removing the patio completely, or at least leaving it to the step. I don't believe that the patio is going to be needed for chairs, lounge chairs, or so forth. In my house, the lounge chairs are out in the lawn. I don't have a pool. I would have liked to see that. I haven't seen that. Our numbers are still above what my threshold usually is. However, I don't want to leave a deadlocked board, because that creates an issue in itself. So reluctantly, and I hope that your builder here, or our engineer, whatever you are, does the right thing for the neighbors, because if not, it's going to be an issue. I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
And please, these decisions are so difficult for the board to make, because we have neighbors that we have to worry about, and we are all your neighbors. We are all your neighbors. We don't get paid to do this. We don't get anything except the feeling that we've done right by our borough and by our neighbors. Councilman especially does double duty on that. So I just want you all to understand how difficult this was for us. And my personal feeling is, with the adjustments that are being made and the additional pits and stuff that are going to be put in drainage, it'll probably be a better neighbor than she was when she came in tonight. So I thank everybody for coming. I thank you for coming up to us, and you're approved.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just asked that a copy of this exhibit with the markup be sent to Ed Alter, who's our board clerk.
If you need, I'll give you his email.
So, folks, I don't think we have anything else on the agenda this evening.
Hallelujah.
I just had,
We
since we
another
don't
half
have
hour
a
will do it,
secretary
maybe.
tonight, present, could we vote for an acting secretary, so then we can sign the resolution?
Yes.
So we're gonna,
I think Colin and Mr. Cray are probably senior. Want me to flip a coin? Yeah.
Well, Mr. Craig was present at the meeting on the application.
And we're gonna give Mr. Cray secretary for today.
Okay. That's right, all you have to do is
Oh, we gotta do a
sign.
sign.
Folks, I'm sorry, we're still in session, if you can just hold it down.
Folks, go outside and talk, please. We're still talking.
They're in session.
I haven't gotten to use this in a long time. They'll tell you, I would bring out a hammer in, you remember? So anyway, so do we need to vote on that?
Just a voice vote, it's fine.
So all in favor of Mr. Cray being our honorary secretary for this evening?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay,
Okay, thank you. That was all.
okay. It's great seeing everybody again. I hope everybody's staying healthy. And I enjoyed my time up here tonight. It was a little
Glad to have you back.
reminiscent.
Nice.
And I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
My last time.
Thank you.
All right, now we're done.
And I just.